The Arkansas is a freestone river. In other words, it's unimpeded by dams. So it's a free-flowing river, and it flows nearly 150 miles from its headwaters down to Pueblo before the first tailwater occurs. And fishing throughout the drainage is nothing less than spectacular. It is a gorgeous day, no doubt about it. Gosh, it must be what, 55 degrees already out here?
At least.
You know, fly fishing is typically portrayed as a dry fly sport, and so, you know, while trout eat 80 to 90% of their diet subsurface, to catch trout on the surface of the river is the most appealing part of fly fishing.
Ready? Great.
One of the beautiful things about float fishing is you can float through private property and fish sections of the river that would be otherwise unfishable. Well, I'm really looking forward to this float.
Yep, I think this has been a long time coming, and I'm psyched it's finally here.
It is. We've been talking about fishing for years, and it seems like both of our guiding schedules keep us going in different directions.
Well, we've got 9 miles of river, we've got a beautiful day, we've got caddis and blue wing olives coming off, fish feeding.
Well, Greg, the water temperature is almost 51 degrees.
Wow, that is warm for this early in the morning coming out of Browns Canyon. You know, upstream of us, just around the bend, there's about a 10-mile long canyon with a lot of deep, slow water. I would have thought this stuff would be colder.
And how much do you suspect it'll go up throughout the course of the day?
I bet it'll go up, if the sun stays out, it'll go up to 56, 57 degrees.
And that'll really pop those caddis off.
Once we hit 54, we should have caddis coming off. I think we should start fishing.
Sounds great to me.
This is a big time of year for us, from about mid-March right on through the middle of May when our runoff hits. And but you're hitting it at prime time in terms of the variety of bugs going on and fish really putting on the feed bag.
It's one of the most remarkable hatches in the West.
It really is, and particularly the timing in terms of time of year when this happens. It's probably the first really big dry fly fishing event of the year. The Arkansas River is known worldwide as a fantastic whitewater resource, and there are sections of the river that get tremendous amounts of whitewater traffic, but there's also sections of the river that are not conducive to whitewater rafting because they have a gentler gradient, not as constrained in terms of the channel, and don't generate the kind of rapids that the whitewater people are looking for, and that's where we tend to do most of our fishing. There we go. We have a brown trout fishery here on the Arkansas. These fish were introduced many years ago from Europe, as all brown trout are in the United States. And they've taken root here, and now our population is about 90% brown. That's about 3,000 per mile. They reproduce totally naturally on their own. There's no stocking of brown trout in the Arkansas River. And I think just the combination of the structure we have, the fact that browns do very well getting through warmer midsummer water temperatures, which we have a little further downstream, really lends this river to being a brown trout fishery. We have rainbows. They only make up about 10% of the population, and all our rainbows at this time are stocked. There's many things that float fishing has in common with wade fishing. Certainly the casting techniques are largely similar, but what we find with float fishing is that we're often approaching the river from the opposite angle of a wade fisherman, and in the sense that we're looking downstream, drifting our flies towards the fish as opposed to casting upstream and drifting back down to them. We are typically working the shorelines and seams, which are the kind of the shear line between the main current and eddy pockets that form along the edges, and looking for slack lines on the surface that indicate structure beneath the surface slowing the current down. Basically, the bottom line is when you're float fishing here, we're out in the main current, but we're looking for places where there's a little less current, where fish can hold their position, and then getting our flies to them.
It's just mind-boggling to me how fast this hatch can progress upriver. And again, you know, just being in the right place at the right time is all the difference in the world. A rainbow, huh?
Is it?
Yeah. And it was a light little take.
It was just kind of like, you had to move him.
Well, that's a pretty fish too. Just an absolutely.
Oh, it is a bow, nice.
Tell me, we don't get a lot of rainbows, huh, Greg?
No, this means we have to catch a bunch more fish because we catch so few rainbows that to keep our average right.
Boy, what a pretty rainbow.
Nice job.
Did you see how soft that take was?
Yeah.
Oh, that was soft. Easy little fella. Okay, I just want to get him wet back in there for a second. That is a beautiful fish.
I know it goes against your grain to have anything on the water that's not drifting naturally, but just let it swing around. That'll tell us something, you know, kind of how many fish are really out here on the prowl.
One of the nice things about floating and having a great guide is he's going to put you in a position to catch fish. And so there's a big difference between just floating down the river and somebody that knows the river well enough to get you into the correct water. Wonderful, thank you. Once you hook a fish in a boat, it's a little different than when you're walking in the stream, so you have to be careful and make sure you have good footing and you know, try to get the net out, and while at the same time Greg is trying to keep the boat in position. And there's a lot to float fishing, and it really looks easy, but navigating that boat is a difficult job.
Our job as float fishing guides is to try and keep the fishing platform, the boat, in the same range off the shoreline as much as we can. Keep that constant and keep the orientation as constant as we can, so we're not spinning all around all the time. And that helps the angler a lot, because if you can establish a good casting range and they have a good mend going so that they're correcting drag on their drift, then you can just work that shoreline and those seam lines all the way down the river. But when you get some wind, it makes it a lot harder, both the casting and the mending. And their guide's going to do what they can with the boat to kind of help the mend and assist the cast. But yeah, a certain degree of technical ability is a real help in float fishing success.
Of course, you never really want to base your day on fish numbers, but numbers do equate to how well the river is fishing, and certainly today the river was unbelievable. We pounded the banks hard because those brown trout are sitting in several inches of water there just right along the bank. So, you know, repeated casting is important. You know, if your fly's not in the water, you can't catch fish. So we just kept working at it, and you know, it paid off. That's what we've been working for, Greg.
That's it. You're vindicated.
He's not happy about this either. He's not as happy at it as I am.
That's a nice fish, Pat.
That's a real nice fish. That's by far the best of the day there.
It's the best brown. He's right up with that rainbow, I'd say.
Oh my goodness. That's an Arkansas River brown there, Greg.
Nice. Oh boy. Yeah, that is, you got one there, Pat. Beautiful. This guy's got some length.
He's old, huh? This is an old man, Greg?
That's probably a 6-year-old.
Thank you.